we all know, and certainly anybody who says, I can quote unquote fix your kid. No, run away from that. Our kids are not broken. They don't need to be fixed. Figure out what realistically is appropriate and beneficial or potentially beneficial for your kid. You don't need to pursue everything. If your kid is a great eater, you do not need to pursue feeding therapy. If your kid is speaking, you don't need to pursue speech therapy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the Autism Resource Project website are your one-stop knowledge and resource base for autism and much more. I'm very pleased to have Kelley Coleman join me as my guest today. Kelley is a feature film development executive turned author and advocate for parent caregivers and individuals with disabilities. Her book, Everything No One Tells You About Parenting a Disabled Child, Your Guide to the Essential Systems, Services, and Supports, draws upon over a decade of experience as a parent caregiver and gives parents the tools to spend less time with paperwork and more time loving their kids exactly as they are. Welcome, Kelley, and thanks so much for taking the time to join me and talk about your journey today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I have been a fan of your podcast for such a long time. And I just feel like, how do we get this to people like immediately as soon as they're on the journey? Because, man, this would make people's lives easier.
Thank you so much. And I always appreciate hearing comments like that. Thank you.
Of course.
So, to get started, parents are often at a loss when they learn that their child is disabled. Why do you think we aren't talking more about the prevalence of neurodiversity, disability, and why do you think these conversations need to happen?
Yes. Even when my son first started his diagnostic odyssey 11 years ago when he was a baby, the conversation wasn't anywhere near what it is now. And it's exciting that it is because people are realizing not only I don't want to do this alone, but I can't do this alone. And then, holy cow, when we start talking about it, we realize we're in good company of a whole lot of people. The statistics are there right now. According to the National Institutes of Health, 1 in 6 kids will be diagnosed with a developmental delay or disorder. 1 in 33 kids, according to the CDC, will be born with a birth defect. 1 in 4 adults has a disability. Disability impacts directly 1 in 3 households. This is just math. And partly because the caregivers and the families really are fed up feeling invisible. And we have this incredible good fortune of all the evils of the internet. One of the great benefits is that we have so many disabled, neurodivergent advocates, creators, leaders who are sharing their stories, sharing their advocacy, and are really allowing us to think and rethink about disability, starting with the lens of the people with the firsthand experience. And we've never been at a moment in time when we've had access to that before. And that's a really exciting jumping off point.
Where do you think parents should start their journey as caregivers? How
With
does
your
that begin?
podcast and my book,
I
right?
love
Yeah, it's
it.
just that easy.
Simple.
Oh my goodness. So the very, very first step is you will get news of a diagnosis, or you will get news that you're going down the path of evaluations. Number one is feel however you are feeling. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself in this. For us, it is a decade plus ongoing process. Our son has a yet undiagnosed genetic syndrome, within that autism, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, a whole big list of things. And so many people in the beginning feel like I shouldn't feel upset or scared or afraid or inadequate or all confused, all of these things. And then we're sitting in a closet crying by ourselves. That's me. That's too many of us. So, first stop is validating however you are feeling and not trying to have somebody say, oh, don't worry, cheer up, take a yoga class. It's okay to feel great or terrible or anything in between. And then really thinking about at the very beginning, who are your trusted sources? Whether that is who can you trust to talk to about this? Who can you trust to share information, whether or not they're in the disability world in any way? I half jokingly say that we all get a diagnosis and we're told to go home, Google, and cry, which is what we all do. And it's horrible. And we got to stop that because we will find whatever terrible thing we are looking for on the internet and it will make us feel worse. There's amazing information out there, but when that is our starting point, we are just digging ourselves into a hole. So think about trusted sources and really lean on your doctors, educators, therapists who are going down this road with you. Ask all the questions you can, and the sooner you can connect with other parents who are also caregivers, even if the disability specifically is not shared, the shared experience of, oh, our parenting, we love our kids are awesome, and we are just taking this sharp left turn. Whether it is through support groups, organizations specific to your disability, even those parents that you keep seeing in the waiting room at all the therapy appointments, those are going to be your best friends. Those are some of my best friends for a decade plus now. Connecting with other parents is everything.
That is incredibly wise advice, Kelley. I completely agree with you.
Mhm.
The connection is absolutely everything. That's where it all starts. And that's the basis of the support system, is making those connections and finding, as you say, the trusted sources, which as a matter of fact is what we're building with the Autism Resource Project, is that trusted source that these parents and caregivers and so forth can go and feel resourced and understood and connected and find what it is that they're looking for in an easily accessible resource hub and have a network there that's available to them so that you don't have time to be a detective when you're a parent, especially the parent of a neurodivergent or disabled child.
Absolutely. And I know we share the passion for which you just touched on, information that you can access easily and also understand and use. I've had so many packets thrown at me that are stapled together, or the IEP and you, and all these things that it's just like these giant blocks of text that A, I don't know what they're talking about, and B, they're just so boring. And boring doesn't get talked about enough. But when all of this stuff is thrown at us and it's boring and this is not our world, of course we are at this huge disadvantage because we don't know what to do with this. And also, we don't want to do anything with it. We just want to go to the park with our kid.
Yeah, absolutely. To continue what you were just saying, as there's so much paperwork involved with just
Mhm.
about every aspect of caring for your child. Where does someone even start, and how can all that be made easier?
I literally have one stack right here off camera and the other stack off here. I've gotten good at the paperwork. It is still endless and I don't love it. I work with a lot of people on how to deal with the planning and the paperwork and all of the stuff. That's what the book is about. That's a lot of the advocacy work I do. I'm not going to say it's ever going to be awesome, but the reality is we need to treat this caregiving piece as a job, and we need to get as practical as we can to, whenever we can, take our emotion out of making that call to the insurance company, out of filing this paper, out of attacking that to-do list. And in my case, it is forever and it is endless. My kiddo will always be interdependent. He will never be independent. And that caregiving piece is full-time and forever for me. And when all of these things are piling up, choose one thing. I often advise families, choose the easiest thing on your list because it is so wonderful to rack up a win. And if it is just making one phone call or making this list of things that you're not going to do till next week, choose one thing to give yourself that win. Certainly look at anything that is tied to a deadline. If you don't submit that reimbursement paperwork by a certain day, you might never see that money. Always write those dates on things so that you know if it is timely. And I always schedule time on my calendar. My calendar is so boring, but I get a lot done. And my to-do list at the beginning of the week, I look at what needs to be done, what can wait, and anything that isn't urgent, I put it on my calendar. And you know what? On Wednesday, I am super not excited to call the medical supply company again at 2:30 in the afternoon, but you know what? I'm turning off my internet, I'm turning off my phone, and I'm calling the medical supply company and dealing with that. Being practical allows us to schedule to do the things and also to turn that part of our brains off at the end of the day when our kids are awake from nap or home from school, so that we can give ourselves that gift of time to just be a parent.
Yeah. Being organized and developing a system that works for you, whatever that system might be, and then sticking to it. Having a certain amount of self-discipline and then rewarding yourself with
Yes.
that time to yourself, to that time with your kid, whatever it is, so that there is some sort of balance that's achieved. And now I want to talk a little bit about resources. We know that they vary from state to state here in the US. So there's not necessarily consistency across the board. Can you elaborate on that just a bit?
Yes. When I was writing my book and the chapter that covers government benefits, that was the hardest expert for me to find. I've experts, over 40 experts interviewed in the book, all the different topics. And I talked to so many people who are experts in government benefits who said, I'll talk to you, but not on the record because it is such a mess when you are looking at what is available state to state. Also, it can be county to county. I live in an enormous county that is even divided up within our county. And so, depending on what street you live on, your services could be delivered slightly differently. Talking to other parents gives you such a springboard when those parents are local, and it gives you an idea of what you can and should be fighting for and what isn't available. Knowing what is and isn't available, you can stress out over that all you want, but it's not going to change. If you lobby your lawmakers and get it to change, then yes. If you lobby your insurance company, get to change, great. Many of us don't have the capacity for that. And we can ask local parents. Our pediatricians are often a great resource. They might not have the depth of information, but they can often set us on the path to social services, what is available through our state, what phone number to call, what it's even called in our state, and how to access that. If between friends and pediatrician or other specialists, we are still not finding what is available locally, local children's hospitals have social workers who can also set you on that path and give you the foundational information that is specific to where you are. And if all of that fails, pull up, just Google the name of your state and Department of Developmental Services, and there is a number, and that number will pull up. You call that number, and there are humans who can and will be helpful. As I was writing my book, I wanted to experiment with that. And so I would pull up different Departments of Developmental Services websites around the country and pull up some employee lists that had emails attached. And I would email random people with questions. And I was dazzled that people got back to me. And if they didn't have the answer, they copied someone on that email who did, or they gave me a phone number. And people were remarkably good at giving me a path forward.
That is absolutely wonderful that you have developed that resource list for yourself, if you will, that process to be able to find what it is that you're looking for. That's something else, by the way, that we want to address at the Autism Resource Project as we develop, as we grow. Part of the community network that we're going to be developing is going to be a nationwide and eventually global map of resources and contact information and events and conferences and so on and so forth. So that, again, so that information is readily accessible in one place and easy to find. And you don't have to be a detective, as you were just describing, which is really what you have to turn into.
Mhm.
That's the process you're describing. And it can take hours and days and weeks and sometimes even more to find that crucial bit of information that you're looking for. And then if you find it, is it really what you're looking for? Is it any good? So that's definitely, something that I'm so glad that you addressed that and talked about it, and something that we're hoping to address as well. To move to the next question, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the best way to qualify that information based on what I just said, to qualify that information we're getting about supports and services and ascertain if it is reliable once you actually find something?
If anything sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so as we all know, and certainly anybody who says, I can quote unquote fix your kid, no, run away from that. Our kids are not broken. They don't need to be fixed. Figure out what realistically is appropriate and beneficial or potentially beneficial for your kid. You don't need to pursue everything. If your kid is a great eater, you do not need to pursue feeding therapy. If your kid is speaking, you don't need to pursue speech therapy. My kid is pursuing both of those. So figure out what you actually need and then give it a try before you access something. If it is through your insurance plan, learn to read your explanation of benefits. It's so boring, but very empowering because you can learn things that save you so much money. Always ask before you go to therapy or see a practitioner. Ask if they take your insurance or if this is coming through social services, and get yourself in the habit of pursuing things that seem like they would be beneficial, and always asking that question before you walk in the door, because there absolutely will be people who won't be covered, but you heard through the grapevine that they were, and you need to be aware of where your money is going at all times. Otherwise, you could really end up spending all of this money that you weren't prepared to spend.
Is there anything that we haven't covered you think is important to mention? And what is the most important takeaway you would like our listeners to have from our conversation?
Something we touched on earlier, getting our information about disability, about neurodivergence from people with the lived experience. That applies to both our parents and our kids. I certainly touch upon that in the book, and really looking at all of the stuff as a job. My book talks about and gives the templates, the worksheets, the bullet points, the questions to ask yourself to build this job and this life for yourself, whether that is future care plans, financial planning, insurance, government benefits, IEPs, school, doctors, therapists, all the boring stuff. But know that you are not alone. There's help, there is support. And if you can view these things as a job, they are tackleable, figure outable, and doable in a way you absolutely will realize you are the right parent for your child and that you can do all of this and still be a person.
Good advice, Kelley. And I want to thank you so very much for your time and for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for everything that you do.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other popular platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like more information on this topic or anything else we've covered on the Autism Resource Podcast, visit us online at autismresourceproject.org/podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, contact us through the website or comment on any of our social media channels. And be sure to check out our growing website often, since we are continually adding useful information and resources. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Project, the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life. And Chris, I'm going to say that last sentence again. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life. And Kelley, I would like to ask your permission to use bits of what you said, quotes and things of what you said on our recording today on the website and other things related to the project and the podcast. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much.